Part 3. The Power of Imagining. In this session, I would like to explore how we can go from sit to stand. So come to sit in your working chair or a kitchen chair and just start by going from sitting to standing a few times. And notice how you do this. Now come to sit in your working chair or kitchen chair again and sit more in the front of your seat. With both feet flat on the floor, your legs slightly apart and your hands resting on your thighs. Sitting like this, start to imagine how you would go from sitting to standing. Don't do it, just imagine it. Where do you start when you want to go from sit to stand? Do you start by bending in your hips so your torso and your head come forward? Or do you start by pressing your hands onto your thighs to push yourself up? Maybe you start by looking up with your eyes and head. Or you start by pressing your feet into the floor. And then what happens? And then what happens? And then imagine step by step what happens first, what comes after, until you're all the way standing in your imagination. How would you stand up in your imagination? And as you're doing this, also take into account what's happening with your breathing as you stand up in your imagination. Are you breathing out at the beginning of the standing up? Or in? Are you holding your breath? And are you looking down as you're standing up? Or looking up? Or you don't really have a focus? What would happen first, and then what would happen, and then what would happen? If you cannot imagine by yourself, pick one of the examples I just gave and try to imagine what would happen if you would do it, for example, with starting from the hips or pressing the feet into the floor or pushing the hands onto the thighs or another one. And if it's hard to imagine it, speak it to yourself internally, really read it out to yourself internally in your mind, step by step. So for example, I bend my hips, then my torso comes forward. I feel the weight shifting from my pelvis into my legs and feet. I push my feet into the floor. I look into the direction I would want to go. I hold my breath, or I breathe in as I come up, or I breathe out, or push my hands on my thighs. Then I round my back as I come up. I look down. I hold my breath, and so on and so on. Whatever you would do in your imagination, speak it to yourself. Really take your time to do this But at least run it all the way in your mind like 5 times, all the way from sitting to standing. And after you've done that 5 times in your imagination, then really go from sitting to standing a few times. And notice how you actually do it compared to how you imagined it. Let's also do this about 5 times. Notice how you actually stand up compared to how you imagined it. What's the same and what's different? Then come back to sitting and start to add the information of the action to your imagination. And after you put the action and the imagination together, and it's more clear, again, come from sitting to standing a few times. And notice if the imagination and the action are closer together. Then after 5 times, actually going from sitting to standing, come back to sitting and repeat this process. So again, add the information of the action of the actual doing to your imagination. And when that's clear again, come from sit to stand again a few times. And repeat this process until your action and your imagination are almost the same. And take your time to do this. I'll leave you to exploring, and I hope I see you again tomorrow.